Look, if you're running a service business, chances are your customer wants to call you. And the people who are looking for a service business are having a hard time finding the phone number on your website. So the customers are on the phone, they have something they want handled, and basically the fastest way is to handle it in person. It's to talk to a person. That's the closest thing. So if your number is not sitting right there and easy to tap, a lot of them will not dig for it. They will call whoever made it easy. Contact form sits in an inbox until someone checks it. A phone call gets answered like right now, this instant. And the customer with a problem knows that they want to call you. So for a service business, a phone call is the most valuable thing your site can produce. It's considered as a conversion. Most booking happens on the phone. Someone has a question about the job, the timing, or the price, and they want a person to answer it right before they commit. A form is not able to do that. It takes at least a few hours. A call is where the decision actually gets made. That's why phone leads are worth more than form fills. And it holds across the trades. The med spa client calling to ask whether a treatment's right for her is most of the way to booking. The homeowner calling a roofer after a windstorm is not comparison shopping anymore. They're right in front of the owner. The caller is no longer researching. They decided to call, and that's a commitment from them. Now, the instinct is to tap the number, not to fill out a form. This happens on a phone, usually in the middle of something. When they're facing an issue, they usually tap the call button. Google's research backs up this reflex. And the same study found that being able to call matters most right when someone is deciding. About half of mobile searchers said that the option to call is important when they're close to buying. And roughly a third of buyers said that they would move on to a different business if calling was difficult. The last group never tells you they left. The phone simply doesn't ring. So if your website has a contact form, a call to action, a bunch of different things, but calling you is not accessible, you need to fix that right away, because 70% of mobile searchers call a business directly from the search results. This is the typical funnel that we see. Someone looks up roofing repair in Calgary. They look at the top results, they look at the website, they briefly scan your homepage copy, whether you align with their needs, and then they look at the top right to see if there's a phone number there. That's just instinct. I can tell by myself when I need something fixed. This is exactly my process, and I don't even do it consciously. So most buyers are exactly the same. You need to be able to answer calls almost around the clock if you want to capture all of the leads. When someone is ready to call, the site's only job is to not make it difficult. I talk a lot about making a site highly converting, and this is the conversion. So the more people actually end up calling you, the better your website is. If you want to see how many taps it takes to call your own business, we have a free audit. It takes basically 2 minutes. You can fill out the questions and we'll give you exact custom step-by-step fixes and enhancements that you can make to your website. It doesn't require you to talk with us. It's purely an AI model trained on our services and our expertise and the industry best practices, of course. Now, most of the sites that I check, the phone number does show up. It's simply in the wrong place, or it does not work the way a phone expects. The most common version is the number sitting only in the footer, so the visitor has to scroll the entire page to find the one thing they came for. Now, there is a caveat here. If your business is very high ticket, if you're working with other businesses, it makes more sense to have a Google Meet call to action or a Zoom meeting call to action, because this stuff requires you to meet face to face on an online call and to have it scheduled. But for something urgent, this is specifically for either urgent businesses or businesses where the services are nice to have. The next common thing that I usually see in websites is the number being in plain text instead of a tappable link. When we work with our clients, we always make sure to make the number a tappable link. On a phone, the number should be a tell link. It's an HTML code that you add, which basically you put tell and then the phone number, and it makes it a clickable link. Just some technical stuff. When it's just text, the customer has to select it, they have to copy it, they have to switch apps to their phone app, and then they need to paste and then hit dial. That's way too many steps compared to just having a simple clickable link. And a number that you cannot tap is a number that most people won't call. Because remember, the more friction you add, the less people are going to actually end up doing the action. And that's good in some circumstances, but for a phone number call to action, this is really bad. Then there's the site that replaces the number with a contact form or buries it behind a contact page. For a service business, that's most oftentimes that's backwards. A form is a fine backup for someone who cannot talk at the moment. Now, what good looks like is boring and obvious. The number sits on the top right of the header on every page, tappable. You can have a call button in the hero text next to whatever your main action is. On a phone, there's a sticky call bar at the bottom, so the number is always one tap away. You can play around with these designs, but it's a pretty simple fix if you don't already have it. So I want you to check your own site. If you have a number in the header, if you have a tappable tell link, if you have a call button in the hero section, if you maybe have a sticky bar on mobile, it also works pretty well. If you have both the header and the sticky bar, it gets a little bit annoying, so probably choose one of the two. And of course, the same number everywhere. We've had clients who have 3 or 2 different numbers featured in different citations. So on their Google business, they have one number. On the website, they have another number, likely because they switched carriers, switched numbers, whatever. But I want you to make sure that the number is consistent throughout all of the sources where it's being shown. Now, making the number easy is half of it because someone has to pick up. The second half of this is answering the call when it rings. A site that finally makes calling easy paired with a phone that no one picks up is simply just a way to get a ton of people in your voicemail. And this bites service businesses harder than most because the calls land while you're on a job, under a sink, or with a patient. The customer calling about an emergency repair is not going to leave a message and wait by the phone. These people are in panic mode. Most people who reach a voicemail do not leave one. And it's statistically proven. Good share of them just call the next business on the list who ultimately ends up picking up. You do not need a call center for this. You need a reliable way to catch the call when you cannot answer. You could have a forwarding setup, someone covering the line, or a same day callback that you actually stick to. That turns the calls your site is now generating into a real booked work. Making the number easy to tap creates the call. Answering it is what turns the call into a booking. This is where your selling skills actually matter. I want you to pick up your own site on your phone and try to call yourself. I want you to count the taps. Then I want you to run the free audit, which checks a lot of things on your website, not just the number, and both of these things take a couple minutes. Also, I want to add that this is the smallest fix in this series, and it's one of the highest leverage ones because the customer already wants to call you. All you're doing is getting out of their way. I want you to try calling yourself from your phone right now, and if it takes more than one tap to dial you, that's the afternoon's work. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.